Reminder to everybody that FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook, and right now it's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
All right, guys, let's jump right into it. The Cavs season is over. That's not a shock. We'll talk more about the game a little later, although I thought it was a gutsy effort. Real quick, I thought it was a very gutsy effort by the Cavs.
Incredible. They played their asses off these last 2
I mean, they were in it for 3.5 quarters.
Yeah. I mean, given what they were missing, especially last night with Donovan out, Karras out, J.A. out.
Yeah. And Darius was awful.
Yeah,
that's all I say. He wasn't even good. I like the fact that people step up. I think they looked at it as an opportunity. The one thing I can say about this Cleveland team and all the really Cleveland teams is that no matter who's in there, they go hard. Yeah. And that's what you got out of them. Like, if Darius made a couple of shots, who knows? But everybody else stepped up in a big way. I was actually proud. Although they lost the game, I could salute that type of effort. I'm fine going into the offseason knowing that, hey, even without y'all best player, y'all still made it a game. Y'all still did everything y'all could, and it looked like it. That's all you asked for.
Most of the guys who played in this series for the Cavs acquitted themselves very well in this series against the team that's been the best all season long. More on that later, including Evan Mobley. Do we think differently of him now after he had probably the best 2 weeks of his young career, I would say.
He's great.
Considering the circumstances. Yeah, he was. All right. But obviously the bigger story is the season's over and now what is going to happen. Of course, there was the blockbuster article in The Athletic. It got released late. I don't know. What time did you guys put it out? Do you know? 11 p.m.?
I don't know.
12 p.m.?
I don't know.
It was
I
out
can tell
late
you
last
exactly
night.
when because I was on the air and Jason texted me like little nuggets as it was going on, and I usually put my phone on Do Not Disturb, but last night I forgot to. And Jason, I apologize to people who watched the post-game show because obviously couldn't reveal your reporting beforehand. But
I was trying to give Mike a
goodness.
Yeah. I knew Mike was doing the post-game show, and I knew this was coming out, and I didn't want him to be blindsided by it. So I was just telling him, like, listen,
here it comes.
If you're on the show, if you're still going, like, this is about to drop.
So it came out during the show, you said?
Apparently it messed up his post-game show.
It didn't mess it up. I just shouldn't have acknowledged it in the way I did. So my bad to people watching. Okay. It came out literally as soon as we wrapped up. And here's the bullet point summary. Jason, you go into more detail on any of these. But this is the bullet point
we'll get
summary.
to it. By the way, I read it at 3:45 in the morning because I woke up at
Got to pee?
I woke up at 3:30 in the morning to pee.
Yep. 40-year-old man's bladder.
Which I always do.
Yep.
Right? But usually I can go right back to sleep. I could not go back to sleep last night. So I've been up since 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I've had those.
Today?
I've been up today since 3:30 in the morning. So after 15 minutes, I gave up. And I'm like, all right, I see Mike's text about Jason's article. I'm like, okay, well, let me read the article. It's 3:45 in the morning. So I did that. I tried to go back to sleep again. I again couldn't go to sleep. And then I ended up watching Hustle with Adam Sandler, which is a great movie, although it's a little hard to buy the Queen Latifah Adam Sandler marriage. I liked it. I thought it was cute, but it was hard to wrap my head around.
What's his name? Bo Cruz? Is that
Bo Cruz was the guy. Great movie. Anyway, let's get to the head. There's many headlines out of this article, Jason. In your mind, it was written by you and Joe Varden and Shams Charania.
Yeah.
Is it Shams?
Shams.
I called them Shams.
Shams.
In your opinion, as one of the co-authors of the article, what is the biggest headline of all the things you said? Is it Jared Allen? Is it Darius Garland? Is it JB probably getting fired? What do you think is, as you know, assessing your own column? What do you think is the biggest headline?
It's probably the Darius Donovan piece.
Okay.
Before we get into that, like, these are so hard to write, and they're so, like, I said earlier, I'm just exhausted. These are draining, and we'll talk about it. We'll get into it and everything, but, like, these are human beings and lives that are being disrupted and torn apart, and it's not fun. Like, that part of it sucks when you know these people and you deal with these people, and then you got to write this stuff. Like, it's hard. And it just feels like some people think that, like, we take pleasure in this and it's fun to and we're doing our jobs, but some of this is really hard. But let's get into it. So the Darius Donovan thing, we reported that if Donovan signs, it will probably get to the point where Darius tries to force his way out, where Darius asks for a trade. I believe we've seen the last of Darius and Donovan on the court together. After reporting this out last night, this morning, gathering more information, I think that this is probably it on the Donovan-Darius pairing. So that's probably, I think, the biggest to come out of all this.
Well, let me ask you something about that specifically. It seems like personally they have a good relationship. Is this about personal at all, or is it all about basketball?
That's a great question.
I think I've said this to people within the Cavs.
Okay.
I think Donovan is incredibly mature. He's very mature.
Right.
For his age. Darius comes off sometimes as a little immature and doesn't really take anything seriously. Now, whether he does or not, this is how he kind of shows himself. Like, everything's a joke.
Yeah.
Doesn't really take anything seriously. Just makes some mistakes on the court you can't have. Like the 8-second violation. Can't have that.
Yeah.
And just, like, getting caught in the air and nowhere to go and just making mistakes that he should not be making for someone who's been in the league as long as he has. But also, he's played some really, really good basketball, some high-level basketball in his career. So I don't think that they dislike each other. I think Donovan gets frustrated sometimes with what I just talked about, and I think Darius is more comfortable with the ball in his hands. And I just think he feels more complete when he's got the ball in his hands without playing next to a ball-dominant guard.
Well, I told you, I think it was Tuesday we talked about this, where I said I feel like as good as Donovan is, I truly feel like he stunted Darius's growth, because Darius had to he's trying to figure out how, from being a ball-dominant guy, being the main playmaker, to going to being off ball and not having the ball. He hasn't figured it out, and I don't think he will, because that's just not who he is. He has to have the ball in his hands. And I think for so many times when you're the guy, the ball-dominant guy, you go through ups and downs in the seasons. You find out what you can and cannot do. But with Donovan here, it's like no matter how bad he plays, he won't figure it out, because at the end of the day, Donovan's going to take over anyways. And like, even when Donovan was playing in Game 6 and Game 7 of the Magic, like, everybody just was like, all right, go ahead, do your thing.
That was an extreme example.
But it's like, to the point, he's so competitive.
Right.
And I see why Donovan could feel like, you know what, why am I the only one that's this competitive? I came on the show and I said it. I said, there's no way that I ever see one of my teammates on one leg giving it his all, and I'm not going to do nothing to help? Yeah. Nothing?
And, like, I don't understand people, like, taking shots at Donovan over the 50-point game is going.
That's ridiculous.
When situations like that happen, it's because you have no faith in the guys around you.
Yes. Right. Like, it's a Kobe Bryant mentality.
He's given them a reason. The rest of the team has given him a reason to feel that way.
Like, they could make a shot. It's same as LeBron in 07 against Detroit. He had no faith in the other guys on the floor. So you're in that position of, like, I have to do this all by myself because I can't trust these guys to make a shot. So it's not an indictment on the guy doing all the scoring. It's an indictment on everybody else on the floor.
That's 100% true.
That the guy with the ball has lost faith in you.
Well, Michael Jordan did say that when in those closing minutes, he always thought about the work that everybody put in. I think it was him, and I think Kobe might have said it. I know that guy didn't work as hard as me, so why would I trust you with the ball?
It's amazing you said that, because I'm going to go back and say, just real quick, I know we got a lot to get to, but when you're talking about that stuff, I wrote in the book that I wrote after the Cavs won the championship.
The book.
The one and only book. The one and only book.
There's going to be no other.
That nobody bought. There was a practice at Mo Williams' facility in Dallas, and Kyrie was coming back from his knee injury, and LeBron and Kyrie were the last two guys on the court. It was the day of the national championship game, BCS game. I think it was one of the Clemson, Alabama game. I don't remember.
Who cares?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm just trying to, like, replay it in my mind. So they're on the court together, and this is 45 minutes, an hour after practice, and guys are mad because they want to go back to the hotel and get showered. They're all sweaty, and these guys are still going and going and going. So I asked LeBron about it the next day, and he said, they're free to leave. They can go. He said, but I want them to know when it matters that we put in the work. The two of us, he and I, are out there putting in the work so that when it comes down to it, they can trust us because we've worked all year long. And Donovan puts in the work.
Yeah. Right.
He absolutely, and I'm not saying the other guys don't, but Donovan for sure puts in that work.
By the way, folks, if you're someone who really only cares about the Browns, we will get to the Browns schedule. We're going to play the schedule game later. All that Brown stuff is coming up later in the show. But right now, of course, we're talking about the Cavs and Jason's blockbuster article in The Athletic. And we're starting with one of the headlines and the main headline about what's going to happen with Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. I got to say, I'm thinking, for about 15 minutes, I've been thinking this one thought, that, yes, it makes sense that one of those two has to be traded. And in a perfect world, it is Darius because Donovan's way better.
Yeah.
And I can't help but think that there's at least a 1% chance that that Koby Altman will not trade Darius Garland just to spite you.
No.
Jason is the voice of Cavaliers basketball. He is the pen. I should say not the voice. The pen of Cavaliers basketball. He has covered this team better than anybody else as long as I've been here. It's true, without a doubt. You are the go-to authority on the Cavaliers. You call it like you see it. You're fair. I think people sometimes accuse you of not being fair and being a hater. You people are wrong. I could say that with 100% truth. You're not a hater. And Jason is fair. Everybody else is a homer, so it seems like he's being a hater because he's calling it fairly. And I feel like that Koby might just.
Why would you?
I don't want Jason to be right.
Why would you say that?
I'm kidding. But that thought just popped into my head. In all reality, I'm joking. But in all reality, we've been saying it for a while that one of the two has to go.
I told y'all two of the four was gonna go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's get into this
Yes.
because this is funny.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell them why I'm mad at you.
So Tyvus is mad at me because at whatever point.
It was like 2 weeks ago. I was like, I think two of the four is gonna be gone.
Yeah.
And I said, nope.
Well, because
I don't think nobody. You're gonna be shocked. I don't think it's gonna be too many changes.
So it sounded like they weren't going to make changes,
So
right?
this is how fragile it is in the NBA. This is how fragile roster building is, and more than any other sport, it's so hard in the NBA. And I mean, I've covered the league for 10 years now. I've talked to so many different executives who try and do this roster building, who say, "You think you got it right, and you've got that piece, and we're only one piece away, or we got it just how we want it. We like this. We're going to run this back." And then one little thing happens, and the whole thing comes down, and you're like, what happened? We were fine.
Yeah.
Okay, you're saying that, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're saying that, I was having conversations. I had a conversation with somebody with the Cavs who said during the Orlando series, if we lose this series, we're probably going to run it back, and we're not going to blow this thing up, and this configuration's only had 2 years together. That's not enough time. We kind of want to see where this goes and how far can we take this. We're not going to make any drastic changes. That was during the Orlando series 2 weeks ago. Look where we are today.
Yeah.
Now this comes out about the Jarrett rib injury, and we haven't even got to that. The shot, not taking the shot.
That's.
Let's get to it right now, Jason,
I'm about to
'cause
say
I thought that's where you're going to start.
Because that, I think Jarrett's probably played his last game here. Right or wrong, fair or not, I think he's probably played his last game here, kind of because of that. So we've gone in 2 weeks. We've gone from
Everybody staying.
we want to bring everybody back to, well, wait a minute. If Donovan stays, Darius might force his way out.
Yeah.
And with Jarrett's situation, there was already a question of how Jarrett and Evan fit. And now you've got this thing with Jarrett not taking a shot. Can you really bring him back now? So now we've gone from 4 to 2 in 2 weeks.
But that's that's literally 2 years in a row that he's put himself in the light to where people gonna question his.
Well, in this case, he didn't say anything publicly. Last year, he said something publicly.
Yeah, he
has he admitted that he didn't take a shot? I mean, or is this just?
I'm sure. Why would he admit that?
It's very substantial reporting that was confirmed multiple times over.
So
he's not talking.
As part of the reporting, you guys said, correct me if I'm wrong, that multiple teammates were unhappy.
Multiple people within the organization.
Okay.
It's a big organization.
Yes.
We've heard from some teammates, in fairness, who said, I don't have a problem with him.
Yeah.
We've heard from others who were frustrated. It felt like nobody doubts he was in pain.
Sure.
Nobody doubts he was suffering. There was frustration from various departments that he didn't do everything he could to get back on the floor, including, now this is where I get a little queasy talking about this, because it's, we
talk
joke
about a guy's injury.
Well, it's injuries, it's HIPAA, and it's also like my body, my choice. If you really want to do that, you're upset with the guy because he wouldn't inject something into his body. Now,
I get that part. Like me being an athlete,
you can talk to this because
I get how people don't want that because it can make it worse. You're not getting better, and you don't know what the side effects of it is later in life, and that's the thing. So I get that point.
Yeah.
But I think where people get frustrated at from a teammate or a front office person is that your leader is out there. He went out there with one leg and was doing it.
Right.
Like with one leg. And you telling me you don't want to contribute in no type of way to help this man? Like, I think that's the frustrating part to where as a teammate, you look at him like, dude, I get all those things, but we need you. You know we need you. You know that you could be a difference maker. So why would you not at least do it one time? Maybe one time. Maybe you go out there one time and you don't do anything. Then we're like, all right, cool. You know what? It ain't going to be that big of a difference. But to sit there and not do it at all, to sit there and watch your teammates go out there and do those type of things, like even after game, 4, he should have been inspired. He should have been like, man, even without Donovan out there, these boys still going out there going hard.
Maybe I can help them win.
I can help them. Like we were so close to winning. I could have been that piece. I could have been 6 points, 6 rebounds and made a difference.
Now, we don't know how he's feeling.
Correct.
I'm never personally going to criticize a guy for not playing due to injury.
That's why this makes this so hard.
It's tricky.
It's really tricky because and that's why with this piece, this piece of it was really the whole article was, here are the facts. This is the information. Interpret it how you want.
Right.
Do with it what you want. I'm not telling you how to feel. There are people who will say, good for Jarrett for sticking up for himself and for protecting his body because no one else is going to. They want to throw you out there.
Yeah.
You have to protect yourself and no one else is going to protect you.
That's a fact.
If you feel that way, I don't blame you. Go ahead and feel that way. There are other people who will say, you're making $20 million. Take the shot and get out there and play. Like, get out there and do what you can. And I'll go back to, I mentioned this earlier this morning, the Texans game, the Browns-Texans playoff game. Joel Bitonio had no business being on the field. He had a high ankle sprain in that game.
Right.
Needed multiple shots. Took multiple shots to get back out there in a game they had no chance of winning, and he was out there in the fourth quarter. Right. Now, is that good or bad? It depends on your view. It depends on, like, to Joel, he was willing to do that and go out there, and that's the decision that he made.
Yeah.
It makes me queasy to be critical of Jarrett for not doing it. I'm just giving you the information. This is what happened. Interpret it how you want.
And that's a personal decision. Nobody really has the right to tell you whether you should do it or shouldn't do it. I'm not going to.
But more times than not, I'm
wired differently.
Yeah.
I can tell you literally in 2014 when we won the national championship, I got the shot 7 straight times.
Right.
7 straight games in the shoulder.
And now talk about what it does, because I don't think people know, like, Toradol, right? Toradol?
Just numbs the pain?
It hurt. Like when you get the shot, it hurt, but you do feel fine. Like for my shoulder, I was able to go make the tackles. It wasn't on my mind. I was good. When it wear off,
what happens when it wears off?
Even worse, right?
Is it worse?
It hurt. Oh yeah, it hurt like a mofo.
How long does that? What does it last for? Like 24 hours?
Yeah, something like that. 24, 48 hours, and then
it's.
You're not getting shot up during practice. Just
in practice, I didn't. I was non-contact in practice. I just didn't hit.
And they don't shoot people up for practice.
No, you're not getting shot up.
It's
for
just
no practice. You get in football. You get that blue jersey that means don't touch, don't do contact, nothing.
Yeah. And so I'm not going to kill a guy for not wanting to do that.
I'm with you.
Now, if his teammates are critical, if anybody can understand, it's his teammates.
Yes.
And if a teammate's critical, like they have the right. Listen, the players have the right to feel. The other players have the right to feel however they do. Maybe it's unfair of them to judge, but in the end, it's your natural reaction. If player X says, like, man, I had a knee problem and I took a shot, he should do it too. Like. I wouldn't necessarily kill that guy for feeling that way, but as an outsider like me, I would never criticize
it's not my place to criticize Jarrett for not taking the shot.
Yeah.
I don't think. To get out here publicly and say you should have taken the shot, that's not my place.
You're right. I think it is an internal thing from a teammate standpoint, but my thing is, to me, when I hear it, me being a former athlete,
slash media member.
No. Former athlete.
Current media member.
Me being a former athlete, I just think to myself, maybe they not as close as they thought. Like maybe he isn't like that.
Yeah.
Like, cause think about it. I don't want to take a shot. Why would I want to take a shot? But if that's my brother and that's my teammate and they need me, I'll take that shot. Like that, because if I rock with you and I care about you, I'm gonna take the shot because y'all need me out there.
And here's what, like, this can't be overlooked. The man played in 81 straight games.
No.
He played in 77
It's so
straight
strange.
games in the regular season.
Yeah.
And then the 4 postseason games before he got hit.
Yeah.
So I guarantee you, in 81 games, he was banged up. He was hurt. He wasn't feeling great.
He must have thought
And
that
he played
shot wasn't.
through
He must have thought that shot wasn't going to change with how he felt.
Mike, do you have
That's
something
the
on
only
this?
thing.
Well, I just want to ask Jason another question on the article.
Well, before you move on to another angle of
Yep.
this, what's your angle?
The Allen thing, and Jason and I have talked about this for weeks now.
Yeah.
It makes no sense to me. The dude's a warrior.
Yeah.
Or was a warrior. Played 81 straight games. He was the only guy in the Cavs who was playing in back-to-back every road trip.
Yeah.
It's
77.
hard to
Now,
wrap your head around.
George Niang played 82 regular season games, but in today's day and age of NBA stars, load management, like they had to put in a threshold so guys would play more games just to be able to reach all
Right.
NBA status. Jared Allen broke through that with flying colors, and then not to get the shot, it just feels like
Something doesn't add up,
He,
right?
he must have said it wasn't going to change. It must have been that bad that shot wasn't going to change.
But that's like just how none of this, like the whole season is just, it doesn't
Yeah.
fit. It's just like there's just parts of it that just don't fit and don't make sense.
Jason, let me ask you this part of this conversation with Jared Allen is that he's going to be gone at the end of the year. You said, I mean, in the article it says he's going to be gone.
Well, the article doesn't say it. I believe.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
I believe.
Yeah,
he's probably
gonna
played
be
his
gone.
last game.
So, do you think that the fact that Evan Mobley had as much of a presence as he did in this series against Boston, where he, it felt like he finally took this a step. He's not the player we hoped he was, but I felt like it took him till this series to take a step forward finally this year, at least from my perspective. Do you think that helps them trade Jared Allen? In other words, they're a little more confident in Mobley being able to hold up as the clear big man?
I know that they like having 2 bigs. They like having Evan and Jarrett. The fit is clunky.
Yeah.
They like having, look how many games Evan missed this year.
Right.
So
you'd have to get somebody else.
Well, I've heard from,
Yeah.
I was talking to someone who said, thank God we had 2.
Yeah.
Like, look at all the time Evan missed.
Yeah.
Thank God we had Jarrett in there. Now, what if Jarrett is out, if Jarrett's gone and Evan gets hurt, what are we going to do? Obviously, yes, you bring in somebody else, but Jarrett's a really, really good player.
Sure.
And he's a tent pole to what they do defensively. Like, it can't be understated. How many times do we say Jarrett's had a monster year? He's had a terrific year.
Ooh.
Like, after all that went wrong for him in the postseason last year and getting outplayed by the Knicks and the lights were too bright and all that, he came back and did everything he could possibly do to erase all of that.
he was their second best player the regular season.
Yeah,
There's no debate about it.
And before he got hurt, he was their second best player in the playoffs.
Second best. He was their best player in the playoffs before he got hurt. He was their second best player in the regular season.
So like, that's why none of this makes sense. That's why this is so hard. But to your point, whenever I would talk to people last summer coming into the season, I was in Vegas for Summer League and just talking to different people. The conversation was always about Evan at center, Evan at the 5, and 4 shooters around him. It was never really about Jarrett. The teams, the rest of the league always looked at the Cavs as Evan at center and 4 around him. Even though Jarrett is a really significant piece to what they do. So this series against Boston, I think you kind of saw what it can look like with Evan at center.
Yeah.
And not even their best pieces around him. He was in different spots. He wasn't necessarily in the post. They started him up higher, which goes back to what I said before about tell Evan, where are you most comfortable on the floor? Go there. We're going to feed you the ball there, first touch every game. And you not the first touch every game part, but you saw him, I think, in the Boston series, and Mike, tell me if you disagree, it felt to me like he was getting more to spots where he's very comfortable and not necessarily spots where he was forced to go.
Evan is a 5.
Yeah.
In today's day and age, and today's current status of basketball, Evan Mobley's a 5.
Now, the problem with that is his frame.
Right.
And when you're asking him to go up against Joel Embiid and Jokic and Kat and some of these guys that are just bigger than him, like just physically bigger than him, injuries are a concern, and him wearing down is a real concern.
Well, I think if you trade Jared Allen and you trade Darius Garland, obviously, we'll see if they're able to do it. They clearly need a wing, which is the most important thing. But they also need to get a center, maybe not as expensive a center as Jared Allen, but a guy who can, in the games against those teams, can do some of the heavy lifting defensively against those guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and maybe Evan's going to get a little bigger this year. I mean, I guess it's just so big he can get on his frame. But he's got to get a little bigger, I would think.
He's still 22.
I hope.
He can get bigger. He's 22.
He'll get a little bit bigger, but I feel like it's the Tristan McKenzie conversation. Like sometimes guys are what they are.
Yeah, no,
like everyone
true.
says Tristan McKenzie has to put on more weight. It's like, guys, he's 26 years old or however old he is. Like he is what he is.
Is he the skinniest baseball player you've ever seen?
Yeah, but like some guys.
First of all, he can put on weight because I thought the same thing.
But it's functional weight. It's different.
Yeah.
He has to be
It's
fluid. When you're
hard.
7 foot, it's on your knees. It's on your feet.
It's hard to put weight on when you're moving around and doing the stuff that they do.
Right, you got to do it in the off season.
But that is still tough then, like because you
it's
train
tough,
it.
but you can do it. It's possible in the off season.
It's possible.
At least a little bit.
One last question real quick before we talk about the schedule.
Yeah,
Jason, you mentioned that the Cavs are going to take a little bit of time to evaluate their roster, including their head coach. I think the exact terminology in the article was in serious jeopardy. What do you make of JB Bickerstaff's future and whether or not the Cavs will make a change at the head coaching position?
I don't think JB and Donovan will both be back. It will be one or the other. And the coach never wins that.
Yeah.
Now, maybe Donovan informs them, I'm not signing, or he doesn't sign the extension, and then you have choices to make at that point and decisions to make. But I mean, if you're asking my personal opinion, I'm not reporting this as source. This is just my opinion. I think he's probably going to get fired. And like full disclosure, obviously the story's done during the game last night, or the bulk of it is done. And I'm watching the game, and I'm texting Joe and Shams. I'm like, they're going to fire this guy? Like, these guys, look what he's doing with what he has.
Yeah.
Look at the pieces that he has. They're going to fire this man. Got him to the second round, made progress every year, playing first round, second round. And, yeah, there's criticisms of him. Sure, there's criticisms of all coaches. And they're real. Like, Mike rolled out all the evidence of his team's fade in the second half. That's really bad. And on the road in the playoffs, they got the one win in Boston, but by and large, his teams have been terrible on the road in the playoffs. That's bad. You got to win on the road. If you're gonna have success in the NBA, real tangible success, you have to win playoff games on the road. So there are issues, for sure. But you can't say he didn't get the most out of these guys, because he absolutely did. The pieces that they brought in that were supposed to fix the roster, Niang, Strus got hot here toward the end when Donovan was out, but for the most part, they were a zero in the playoffs. And yet he still kept dragging them along. Yeah. He coached his best basketball when these guys were out. And we thought it was going to unravel in December. And he did his best job, I thought. And Cavs were putting him up for Coach of the Year.
I think it's fair to say that he did a really good job in the postseason, especially in the Boston series. And in the same vein, say also that it might be time for a new leader, even though he did a good job.
Is he the guy to take them to the championship?
That's always the thing.
The
is there's the guy that gets you through the rebuild, and then the guy that takes you over the top.
The question is, when you look at him, can this guy win us a championship at the end of the day? Does the team believe in him enough
to get him to a
championship?
And that's why I ultimately think he's probably going to get fired, is because I don't think Donovan wants him to be the coach. And I say that knowing that, like, no player wants to be labeled a coach killer. Yes. No player wants that label. They run from that.
It's a fact.
But it's also a fact that there's a lot of guys in the Cavs locker room, I know this with 100% certainty, who don't like JB, who don't like his style. There's a lot of things they don't like. And it all comes to light because you're following the leader. If Donovan likes JB and has JB's back, a lot of this other stuff probably never even comes to light. But when the leader of the locker room doesn't like the coach, that's when all this other stuff bubbles up. And when that many people don't like the coach, I mean, we were talking about should he be fired last year. I did not think he should have been fired last year because I didn't think he had the proper pieces. You have to give him pieces that he needs and then evaluate him. And they did try and give him the pieces that he needed, and they were zeros. So ultimately, a long-winded answer is, I think they're probably going to fire him. They may keep him. But I don't think that both Donovan and JB will be on this team next year. Just like I don't believe Donovan and Darius. Like, this is – it's unfortunate because they have made progress every single year. But, again, it is so fragile, way more than the NFL, more than baseball. NBA roster building is so delicate and fragile. And just when you think you got it right, the whole thing comes apart.